Hello, everyone, and a warm welcome to this webinar hosted by the Center for Science and Environment and Down to Earth. Today, we are here to launch the fourth edition of our annual Extreme Weather Assessment Report, which is Climate India 2025. This report basically is a comprehensive look at how India experienced extreme weather through the year and how these patterns have evolved over time. So, before we move to the release of the report, let me introduce you to the panelists for today's webinar. We have Sunita Narayan, she is the Director General of CSE, and we have Richard Mahapatra, who is the Managing Editor of Down to Earth, and Kiran Pandey, she is the Director of the Environment Resource Unit at CSE. So, with that, I would like to invite you all to the webinar and for the e-release of this report. Thank you so much, panelists, for joining, and let me just bring to the screen the report for the official launch.
Wonderful.
Are you all able to see?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Ma'am, now let me hand it over to you so that you can set the context to the report.
Thank you, Sukanya, and thank you, Richard and Kiran, for this amazing work. Please forgive me, everyone. I am, like most people in Delhi, suffering from the toxic air pollution that we are now breathing and that we don't seem to understand needs us to act at scale and at speed, because we just have to reduce this pollution in the air. But that said, I want to today talk about why this report on extreme weather event that we put together year after year and bring to you year after year is so important. We know that the world is meeting at Belém right now. COP30 is taking place. COP30 is about the urgency of taking climate action. It is as much as the urgency of taking action in Delhi against air pollution. We need to act as a world together on climate change. That's the message from Belém. The other part, but the reason we need to take that action urgently today is not because it is theoretical or that it is moral or that it is, that climate change is something that we need to care about. We need to take that action because it is literally a matter of life and death. When we talk about climate change, we talked about an existential crisis. And it's now almost become like language and words. The reason this report that we bring to you every year is so important because it puts a human face on those words. It puts out to you the facts of why climate change matters. And something that we need to keep remembering, because otherwise we are lost in the quagmire, as I keep saying, of discussions, of debates, of meetings, of endless conversations, but we don't seem to understand the sheer urgency and the need to act, and therefore act at scale. Our report on extreme weather event is something that Richard Mahapatra, managing editor at Down to Earth, thought about some years ago, where we essentially bring to you information from the Indian Meteorological Department. It isn't information that we have. It is information that is put together every day by the IMD to tell us what is happening in the country. But theirs is a snapshot. It tells us on a daily basis what is happening. What this report does, which Kiran works on, is to put that snapshot together to make it a full picture. And it is when that picture emerges that you understand the scale of the devastation that we are seeing today. And we need to understand that because otherwise it's news, and news of every day goes into the news of tomorrow and then day after, and we just flip the pages. So we had a disaster this year in Uttaranchal. Uttarakhand. We had a disaster in Himachal, Jammu and Kashmir, flooding in Punjab. We know of the kind of cyclones that we have been hit with, but they are news, they're everyday's news. What we don't understand is just how this is adding up. And this report helps us to put that addition together. It puts the full picture in front of us and tells us the human cost and the livelihood cost. Now, I say this even as we know that the data on the cost is very poor. It's not adequate. So even as we present it to you, we know that the numbers of the number of lives lost or the amount of land lost to floods or property destruction, we don't have enough good estimation. We take this estimation again from official sources, but we know that we need to have more data collection and we need to do this on a real-time basis because the disasters are happening at a scale that we haven't seen before. When I say extreme weather event, and Richard and Kiran will explain it to you, but just to put it in context, extreme weather is a definition of the Indian Meteorological Department. They classify an event as extreme if it goes beyond what they say is a heavy rainfall, what was normal for that period, they will then call it an extreme weather event. We are just simply aggregating that data and bringing it to you so that you understand what does it mean in terms of the scale. And I keep using the word scale because that's what we have to remember. Because the scale of the devastation should tell us the need for the scale of action. And I say this today when everyone is meeting and leaders are meeting in Belem, when there is discussions in Belem of the need to act on climate change. And we are seeing global hesitancy, we are seeing backsliding, a reversal that cannot be allowed as we see the impacts hitting our world. So given that, this report should help us to keep the momentum, to keep the pressure, and to keep putting out the data to say, this is not good news. In fact, it is really devastating. And our data tells us it's only getting worse. So again, thank you, Richard. Thank you, Kiran, for putting together this data. And I will now turn to Richard to take us through the key findings of the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunita Di. May I request Sukanya to put the PPT? And but before that, thank you, Sunita Ji, for contextualizing it. But just taking it forward, we are hardly 14 days left to complete this year, and scientists already mark it as one of the most devastating year. Even they say that 2025 is a new reality altogether as far as climate and our lived experience is concerned. And what we can say that we are actually enduring an altered climate that is hardly recognizable. Scientists actually struggle to look at precedents to compare and they don't find. So that's 2025 all about edge, hardly 40 days left. Just to give you how actually it comes, if you look at the carbon concentrations in the atmosphere, and remember, these are all from the human activity sourced. Carbon concentration has reached to unprecedented level, highest, and from 2023 to 2024, the global average concentration of carbon dioxide oxide surged by 3.5 ppm, irrespective of what it is. It's the largest actually increase since the measurement started in 1957. So the more the carbon concentration in the atmosphere, more is the warming. So how are we actually placed with warming? We all know that 2024 was the warmest year on record. And just before that, 2023 was the warmest. And 2022 was also warmest. And we have all the credible evidence to show that now 2025 will be one of those warmest year. And if you put it in that context, last 10 years have been the warmest on record and breaking all other records as well. So what does this warming means? As you know, the science is very clear. This warming basically disrupt the climate, the weather systems, so it leads to the extreme weather events. Now look at it in the, if you actually call it that altered climate or a new reality, look at it. The kind of extreme events we are going through, starting from marine heat waves around the year, to cloudburst in Chennai, India, and to actually new season in polar regions, including heat waves. And that's the kind of contrasting and the scale and the spread of extreme weather events we are now experiencing. So in this context, we present you our assessment. It's called the Climate India 2025. It's done by Center for Science and Environment and Down to Earth magazines. And it's an assessment of the extreme weather report. And it's precisely assesses the 5 9 months, that's January to September. So Kanya, can I have the next slide? So what we do, Sunita ji has already introduced you how we would do it. If you look at it we started it in 2022, so that's for the 4 years, 2022 to 25. For nearly 1500 days, every day we monitor the weather data and weather incidents. And over years, we get these seasonals and regional trends. And again, over years, we also get to see that what's the geography of disaster. Where exactly disaster are striking? Do we see any change? Or for the same disaster, new geography is emerging? And also, we look at the contrasting extremes and the increasing loss and damages. That's what Sunita ji also mentioned, that it's the impact of the extreme weather events, and we see. Sukanya, next. So why we track? It's very clear. Sunita ji has explained it. I'm just repeating that part, that it's not an everyday meteorological or weather report. Extreme weather events, as I just said, that are the signs of the climate change. Its impact that we all experience. We also do this to gauge the frequency and ferociousness of these events, so that we know not only the scale and also how severe it's becoming. And ultimately, it to create an atlas of India's weather disasters, which can equip authorities with patterns of disasters for better adaptations and responses to actually direct all the relief and response operations as well. And our sources, again, I'm just repeating it. We actually take all the data from Indian Meteorological Department, their daily press releases, their All India weather summary and forecast bulletins. We use their climate summary for the month. Then the disaster management division of the Union Ministry of Home Affairs also we look at it. Then also we go through all the situation reports from various states on the flood, heavy rains, and also a very wide tracking of media reports, which the other agencies also do. So it's basically everyday job that we do, and we put them together every year to give out the message. So what are the messages? What do we find? And if you look at it, and in 2025, from January to September, that we assess, it's the first year in 4 years that all the states and union territories in India recorded extreme weather events first. Second, the number of days with extreme weather events is unprecedented. It's nearly every day in this first 9 months, the country has reported an extreme weather events. That basically 270 days out of 273 days. And reporting it back, that's also the highest in 4 years since we tracked extreme weather events. Then we broke many records, and we'll shortly present those also. Many meteorological records have been broken in this year. Coming to the loss and damage, this has been a devastating year in the past 9 months. 4,064 people died due to extreme weather events. And that's a rise of around 48% in 4 years. And if you come to the cropped areas being affected, that's a huge economic loss also. And these disasters have struck at the time when the crops were standing. That comes to 9.47 million hectares. That's more than 90 lakh hectares. And that's a 400% rise in 4 years. And yes, around 59,000 animals died, which is a big crucial source of livelihood and economy for people. And nearly a lakh houses were damaged. And on your left, you will find the dashboard that gives you the details, which you can go to the website of Down to Earth and CAC and can see that. Sukanya, next. So, which are the states worst impacted with extreme weather events? So, here is the list, the top 5 states that recorded the highest number of days with extreme weather. That's Himachal Pradesh. It had 217 days out of 273 days those were assessed under this assessment. Second, Kerala, 147 days. Then come Madhya Pradesh, 144 days. Then Maharashtra, 140 days. Then Sikkim with 125 days. These are the top 5. But as I said, all the states and union territories recorded extreme weather events and saw the impacts also. Next. Now, the states with highest human casualty, if you look at it, Madhya Pradesh actually accounts for the highest human casualties at 532 deaths. Then come Andhra Pradesh, Jharkhand 478, Himachal Pradesh, it's a small state, but the casualty is very high at 380, Uttar Pradesh 321, Maharashtra 283 people died. And next, if you come to Uttarakhand, which is again a small state, but 169 people were killed, Bihar 146, Gujarat 128, and Karnataka 117. These are the 10 worst or the 10 states having the highest human casualty. Now, if you look at the states with highest crop areas affected, crop area, as I already pointed out, the cropped area being damaged by extreme weather events has reached to an unprecedented level this year till September. Maharashtra has the highest ever crop damages or cropped area being damaged by extreme weather at 8.4 million hectare or more than 84 lakh hectares have been impacted. And Maharashtra, which actually offered a compensation package for farmers, turned out to be around more than 55,000 crore rupees. That's also one of the highest compensation package being declared. Next comes Punjab, that's 0.26 million hectares. Then UP, then Himachal Pradesh, then Jammu and Kashmir at 0.14 million hectares, then Haryana at 0.12 million hectares, Karnataka 62,586 hectares, then Assam 42,627, Rajasthan due to extreme weather, particularly heavy rains and floods, 20,436 hectares. Then comes Madhya Pradesh with 12,000 hectares. Next, we also analyzed the spread, the extent of loss and damages region-wise in the country. On your uh, computer screens, you see this is the northwest region, and you can see which are the states, particularly mostly the northern states, including Chandigarh, Delhi, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh, Punjab, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, and Uttarakhand. You can see that marked in the map. So northwest region actually accounted for the maximum days with extreme weather events. That's 257 days out of 273 days during the period of January 1st to September 30th. And it lost 1,342 people. And crop area affected, it's really very huge also. If you look at it, most of them are small states and include state like, territory like Delhi. It's nearly 1 million hectare of crop area affected. Next, if you look at the east and northeastern region, again, it's all the northeastern states and including West Bengal as well as. It had 229 days out of 273, it recorded extreme weather events. And nearly 900, or to be precise, 878 people died. And the 56,000 hectare of crops were impacted. Next. The South Peninsula regions, which includes the islands of Andaman and Nicobar, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Kerala, Lakshadweep, Puducherry, Tamil Nadu, and Telangana. It had 205 days with extreme weather out of the 273. And 745 people lost their life and 67,321 hectare of crop areas were damaged or impacted. Next. Coming to the central region, this is the Chhattisgarh, the Goa, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, and Odisha. This also had 200 days. In 200 days, out of the 273 days assessed, reported extreme weather, and more than 1,000, to be precise, 1,093 people died due to the extreme weather events. And it has the highest cropped areas being impacted because Maharashtra is there. 8.42 million hectare of crop areas were damaged. Next. So, which disasters killed the most? In this 273 days, heavy rain, floods, landslides killed the maximum. They killed together 2,440 people. And remember, heavy rain, floods, and landslides, these are one disaster causing the other one. And also from the climate perspective, these are also termed as climate-related weather events. So these events killed the maximum at 2,440. Next come lightning and storms. 1,456 people were killed by lightning and storms. Cloudburst. This year, even cloudbursts were very frequently reported, and even exceptional geography, like in Chennai, even in Andhra Pradesh, cloudburst killed 130 people, heat waves 21, and snowfall 12. Next. So just look at this map, lightning and storms. It gives you the snapshot. So lightning and storms were reported in 204 days out of the 273 days. And I have already told about the human deaths. But the worst impacted states where lightning and storm happened the most of the days, it's Madhya Pradesh in 91 days, Maharashtra 56 days, Uttar Pradesh 49 days, Chhattisgarh 37 days, and Jharkhand 35 days. And remember, Jharkhand this time came into limelight due to the lightning. Many people dying, dozens of people dying actually due to lightning. And if you look at it, and in the bottom you'll see this what is called the frequency tracker. Nearly all the 9 months such events were reported. And if you look at the January and February, these are not the usual months that lightning and storms are associated with. So that's what we have been talking about and getting a sense, which we'll get to know more. Next, heavy rain, flood, and landslides, the direct climate related incident means the events. So it happened in 259 days out of 273 days. And it definitely the human death I have already told about. Himachal Pradesh actually reported the maximum days at 194 days. Heavy rain, flood, and landslides in 194 days it reported. Kerala in 141 days. Sikkim 118 days. And as expected, if you look at the human deaths, I have already told about Himachal has 355, Madhya Pradesh 348, and Andhra Pradesh 292. And if you look at the frequency tracker, there is not a single month. Forget about the monsoon months or the stormy months, whether it's January, February, March, everywhere it's actually coming to more than 20 days kind of things were reported with these events. Next, heat wave. So in 52 days, heat waves were reported. Human death was 21, and regions affected is Rajasthan, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh. Expected, isn't it? But we had also human death in Uttar Pradesh. But if you look at the map and if you look at the trend, heat wave were reported in February and March. These are not the months to get heat waves. It was never the case. Like in case of the heavy rains coming in all the months, in case of cloudburst also having in different geography. So this was also an anomaly kind of things and shows that we are reporting disasters, extreme weather events, even unusual time. So next, cloudburst. So 19 days, human days 135. If you look at the number of days the cloudburst was reported, and if you look at the human casualty, it's one of the highest among all the disasters that we track. So regions affected, Jammu and Kashmir, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh. Expected. These are the usual areas where cloudbursts are usually reported. Look at the exception. In the beginning, I told you, Tamil Nadu. Very exceptional. You can call it's a meteorological alien. So it happened this year. And it happened elsewhere also. So human deaths, and Kashmir reports the maximum at 83, Uttarakhand 33, and Himachal Pradesh. And look at the months in the number of days with cloudburst, that's a frequency tracker. It starts from April, May. So again, these are not supposed to be the time when you expect cloudburst usually. But as we live with this changing climate, I think we are getting used to it also and reporting more every year that such disasters are happening elsewhere. Next. So this is the end of it. And just to actually give you a sum up of, before I ask Kiranji to do this, we track every day, then we put it weekly, then month-wise, and then we get into analyzing them season-wise. Because it is popularly known that, and it shows clearly that the disasters are no more season identified. Everything is happening everywhere and around the year. So seasonal analysis of the extreme weather events will give you actually and tell you not only its scale, its frequency, but also how extreme weather events are becoming the new normal for the whole of the Indian subcontinent. So that's precisely what Kiranji will tell you. Kiranji, over to you.
Thank you, Richard. Am I audible to everyone? Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Sukanya. Thank you, Richard. Yeah. Next slide, Sukanya. So, Richard has shown us the overview of how extreme weather events have happened over the first 9 months. I'm going to talk about how the trends have been visible through the seasons. And I'll especially focus on the trends across 3 seasons in the first 9 months that we have observed for the past 4 years. And I'll try to show you that how over the months, the events have changed the character. Over the seasons, there's been change, remarkable change that's also been devastating. And I'll touch upon a state-wise scenario of the weather events this year. And we also started tracking temperature across the capital cities in the monsoon season from this year onwards. So I'll share a few insights on that aspect also. Second slide. So as the slide itself shows, so this year was marked by several extreme and record-breaking events across different months and regions. And each month had a different aspect. It ranged from high minimum temperature, which was record-breaking in 124 years. There has been a record in terms of low rainfall as well. This is just a snapshot of few months that we have observed. And the IMD has clearly stated that January was the 5th driest in 124 years, which means since 1901, it was the driest month that we have seen this year. February was the warmest in 124 years. And in the same month, the minimum temperature that is often linked with the nighttime temperature was the highest this year. And you can easily realize that when Richard was talking about heat wave in the month of February, okay, so there's been some correlation between this and that aspect. In March, Southern Peninsula had the highest mean temperature in 124 years. In coming to July, in the month of July, which is your monsoon month, East and Northeast region has seen the 4th warmest in 124 years. And all the trends show that East and Northeast region is one of the most impacted. Okay, and it has also seen deficit rainfalls. And July is a month that we can see over here. August, the central India, West August was one of the most devastating months, if you ask me. And this is a month we'll remember for the tragedy in Punjab. And in this month itself, the central India had recorded its 5th highest minimum temperature. So you can see that. And again in September, we saw the highest minimum temperature on record. It means this is 124 years. So if you see in this slide that we have covered, we are talking about almost 6 months. In the 6 months, you can see that in 3 months there was a record-breaking temperature in terms of the minimum temperature. That indicates something very worrying, which means the difference between the maximum and minimum is decreasing. Maybe the minimum temperature is increasing at a better higher rate than the maximum temperature, as science has been telling us. And so this clearly indicates if the entire picture is put up in one place, that means this is an evidence of the intensifying impact. So till now, we have the scientific evidence saying that yes, this is happening. But now the report clearly shows that this as an evidence. Next slide. Now, while we had analyzed seasons, another interesting aspect that we have come across is that, so we have tracked over 9 months. Of the 9 months, in 7 months, India has seen the weather events almost every day. And now if you compare this in the past 4 years, so for example, in the last year, 2024, 6 out of 9 months, they had observed extreme weather event every day. Now, if I go further back, 2022 and 23, it was 4 of the 9 months. So now you can see how the number of events have increased. The frequency is actually going up. Okay, this is clear trend that's being shown through the report. Secondly, another interesting trend is that there's no respite from these events. Okay, for example, this year, 8 consecutive months, yet continuously we have seen weather events which were recorded in 30 or more states across the country, which means this talks about that they're continuous. Geographically also, it's really worrying, where that almost 30 out of 36 states have experienced this, and with 8 consecutive months. Okay. Once again, if you see the trends, this has increased over the years. For example, in 22 and 23, there were 4 such consecutive months in the first 9 months of this year of the year. Last year, these events were recorded for 6 consecutive months. Another interesting trend that is clearly visible is that in 22 and 23, this began from the month of June to September. That's the monsoon season, which is not very surprising. But if you talk about 2024, these events came pretty early. So the trend was seen pretty earlier. And we saw this for 6 months from April to September. Now, if you see this year, it is still more earlier. Okay, we are seeing such events and continuous events from February onwards, which means these events are occurring earlier. The character is changing. At the same time, the geographical spread of these events is also widening up. Amongst all the months that we have tracked, February was an interesting month. And also, so what clearly shows us that, this example that I would like to take is that in this month, if I compare from 2023 onwards, in 2023, we saw extreme weather events in 6 states of the country. And this year, we are seeing this in 31 states of the country. It clearly shows in the month of February, which is usually supposed to be a lean month, the events actually span across the country, covering almost every state of the country. Next slide. So we track these events season by season. There are 3 seasons in the first 9 months: winter season, pre-monsoon, and monsoon season. Winter season was exceptionally interesting. If you see our database, in the month, we had observed 57 of 59 winter days, again covering 31 states and UTs this year. And of these events, the most striking event was the heavy rainfalls and floods, and that happened on 51 days, followed by cold waves, which is not surprising in the month of January and February, and then lightning and storms, and also heat waves were observed during this season. That was a change that we have observed over the past 4 years. We had never observed heat wave in the month of February. This year, heat wave had arrived earlier than the normal. And if you see state-wise devastation trend, Himachal Pradesh was the worst hit with 52 days of events. And if you see all the results, you'll realize that Himachal Pradesh is one of the worst hit states this year in terms of damage and days. Next slide. So now we will talk about trends during this winter season. So now we had actually, so IMD comes up with the report every month. So, and they had said that, so as per the ID records, the first 2 months had recorded deficit rainfall. For example, in the month of January, the rainfall was over 70% less than the normal rainfall for the month. In February also, the rainfall was less than the normal. So we had deficit rainfall in these 2 months. But so the general perception is less rainfall means less events of this kind. But the data shows that So although this month was drier than usual, it still recorded 51 days with heavy rain, floods, and landslides. What does this show? This shows that such events are becoming more localized, they're short and also intense in nature. As we already said that the season also saw 3 heat wave days in the month of February, and this was the earliest that we have recorded since 2022. And again, an unusual character of the winter season, which is supposed to be a cooler month. And if you see the trends over the years in terms of number of days, we can clearly see that this month has seen an increase in number of extreme weather days, and the increase is substantial. It has increased from 64% of days that we have tracked in 2022 to 97% in 2025. Okay, that's the increase we're talking about. That clearly shows that these events are actually, again, the frequency is increasing. Okay, they're intensifying in nature. So what does this translate to? So this translates to devastation in terms of human deaths that is being clearly observed. There's been increase in human deaths due to these events from just 22 in 2022 to 64 this year. Again, it's and every death matters, every human life matters, but the season has seen over 191% increase from 2022 to this year in this month of in this season. Next slide. Now the pre-monsoon season. This season covers 3 months, March to May, and so this season has also seen a significant rise in the number of extreme weather days. And what we have seen is that of the 92 days during this season, in 91 days we had observed extreme weather events. Again, covering 35 states and UTs. That means the entire country had experienced these events. In terms of event types, nature of events, once again, heavy rains, floods, and landslides dominated this. They were observed on 86 days during this season, followed by heat waves on 41 days and cloudbursts on 2 days, and then snowfall. Okay, and if you see this slide, you can see this for the geographical spread of these events. This slide shows you a map of India on your left-hand side. This map shows you the states affected, and the redder it is, the dark red it is, that means that state is most affected. And once again, this shows that Himachal was the worst hit state even during this season, followed by Kerala and then Madhya Pradesh. And what does this mean? This also meant that this human deaths and damage to the cropped area. And almost over 900 lives were lost during this season, and around 6,000 hectares of cropped area was lost during this season. Yeah, next. Yeah. Now the trends in this pre-monsoon season. Okay. Once again, if you see this, so there's this bar on the left-hand side. That bar shows the trend. You see the gray colored bar, the portion in 2025 has expanded. Okay, it's over the years. That means the heavy rains and floods are again, they're becoming more frequent. This is a shift from the previous years, which is very clear. And so in the past, lightning and storms was dominating, which also covers hailstorms in our database, and they are dominating in terms of events. But this year, heavy rainfalls and floods were the most dominating events, and they have been more frequent if you compare with the past. This month also reported heat waves. Richard has already spoken about it. But what is of interest in heat waves, or also worrying in terms of heat waves, is that the Himalayan states, supposed to be cooler states, people go for tourist hotspots of the country. Okay, all these states that covers Himachal Pradesh, Jammu, Ladakh. These states had recorded heat waves during this season. Okay, so the temperatures in these Himalayan regions is again that has to be taken note of and planned done accordingly. Once again, the extreme events now happen on almost all days of the season. And if you see the trends, there has been a sharp increase from 88% of days in 2022 to 99% in 2025. So the frequency of events has increased when during this season. So no season is spared if you talk in terms of increased frequency of events. Again, what does this translate to? This means more human lives were lost. Okay, and there has the number of deaths that have happened this year. If you compare this 2022 in 4 years, they have almost tripled from 302 human deaths to 993 this year. Okay, this is okay. Next. Now the monsoon season, which is again, if you see, one of the most devastating seasons every year. This year also, India had seen such events on all 122 monsoon days from June to September. Again, the red map shows on the left-hand side show that almost all the states were affected. In this season also, heavy rains and floods were the most dominating event that occurred almost every day, followed by lightning and storms on 104 days, then cloudbursts on 17 days, and heat waves on 8 days. Okay. And so this year, in the season, cloudburst actually was in news on many days. If you compare with the past, in terms of most affected, once again, Himachal Pradesh was the worst hit when during this season. And what does this mean in terms of livelihood or human deaths? So these events in this monsoon season claimed over 3,000 lives and affected around 9.4 million hectares of cropped area in this season. Now, to put this into context, if you see, Richard had spoken about loss of cropped area for this total of 9 months. And if you see, of the 9.6 million hectares that we spoke about for the entire season for the country, 9.4 million hectares of cropped area has been affected in the month of monsoon only. That itself talks about its devastating nature. Okay, and what it means for the livelihood of our farmers and for the food security as well. And okay, next slide. Yeah. Now the trends during this season. As I have told you that monsoon is undoubtedly the most devastating season this year, where at least one disaster was seen every single day since 2022. Again, the bar on the top shows 100 days. Okay, so every day we had seen such events in monsoon season. That's not the news. So, but it's definitely worrying. But what does this mean? This means that increase in human deaths during this season. And if you see in terms of percentage, it may look less if you compare with other seasons, but in absolute numbers, once again, it accounts for a larger share of total deaths in the first 9 months. Of over 4,000 deaths that we have recorded in the first 9 months, 3,000 deaths, at least 3,000 deaths have happened this year itself in just these few months in the monsoon season itself. And this is again a jump from last 4 years. The number of human deaths that has been recorded by us is 24% increase in 4 years, from 2004 over 2,400 deaths in 22 to 3,000 deaths in 2025. And again, I'll repeat, every life matters, every human life matters. It's, as I told you, it's definitely devastating for the livelihood of our farmers as well also. And that's clearly shown through the cropped area affected during this season. So you can see the slide on the left hand of this presentation. You'll the circle that you're seeing on the crop area affected. It clearly indicates how it has impacted our fields. We have around 9.4 million hectares of crop area was lost in this monsoon season. This is a marked increase from 1.8 million hectares in 2022. If you see, this is over 400% increase in 4 years in this season. And I'll just repeat once again, this is a major share of the total crop area lost in the first 9 months. So monsoon season is definitely one of the most devastating seasons in terms of human deaths and crop area affected as well. Next. Yeah. So as I mentioned, we have also analyzed information at the state level for the first 9 months. And And we also now it's very clear that the intensity of events have increased, the frequency has increased, the geographical spread has also increased. So they are more widening in nature. The entire country is not suffering from these events, and the state-wise analysis clearly reflects that. So at least 18 states have seen the highest number of weather events since 2022 in 4 years. Okay, and once again, this includes Himachal Pradesh. So you'll see Himachal Pradesh is occurring again and again in this presentation. Okay, this state has seen the highest number of extreme weather events in the first 9 months. It has seen around 217 days during this period, which is again an increase by 115% in 4 years. And what this means, you have already seen, this meant devastating for the state. Now, other interesting insight that we have realized, other interesting trend that we realize is that 15 states have seen at least 100 or more days of extreme weather events in just the first 9 months of the year. This includes Kerala, Sikkim, Karnataka, Uttarakhand, Gujarat. Almost every region of the country has observed these events for 100 or more days. Now, when you further see this data at state level and regional level as well, what we realized was that we always talk about that Himalayan states are most fragile states by nature, northeastern states are equally fragile. And this database also shows that the extreme weather events in these states have been on the rise, and they're rising rapidly as compared to other states. For example, if you see Mizoram, Nagaland, Jammu Kashmir, Sikkim, Tripura, Manipur, Himachal, Arunachal. So these states figure amongst top 10 states with maximum increase in extreme weather events. And this slide on the left-hand side clearly shows that. So Mizoram is on the top because it has seen substantial rise. So also in terms of days, it looks less. But if you compare with 2022, the number of days the state has witnessed extreme weather events this year has increased sharply. Okay. And once again, so this is a state level list which shows this in the decreasing order, and Madhya Pradesh is on the top. And I'll just repeat once again that these such events are increasing rapidly across both Himalayan and northeastern states, which also means that when we plan for these states, the nature of these states has to be kept in mind. The state of development in these states is very, very important when you talk in terms of development, because that we can't blame everything on climate change because this is actually happening. But so this indicates that this region is vulnerable, but the planning has to keep this nature of this in mind. Yeah. Next slide. So this year, we have started analyzing the temperature across the capital cities. IMD puts out data for cities on a dashboard. We have been tracking that regularly since this monsoon season, which has 3 months. So the 3 months have shown a trend that has been talked about by the scientists. Okay, the trend clearly shows a disturbing trend in terms of both minimum and maximum temperature. Out of these two aspects, what is most striking for us is the minimum temperature, which has been above normal for 50% of days. Again, in this, Kohima had higher than 98% of monsoon days. That shows an Himalayan northeastern city has observed higher than normal minimum temperature on 98% of days. Okay, as I already said that the northeastern states are fragile by nature. This again indicates that, and they're warming faster. Also, that slide shows that. Now, maximum temperature also the same trend we have observed. 13 out of 34 capitals have seen higher maximum temperature on 50% of the monsoon days. Once again, when we talk maximum temperature, Himalayan states figure in this list. 7 of the capital cities that we have analyzed belong to Himalayan states, and 4 belong to coastal states and UTs of the country. And this indicates once again that the planning has to keep in mind the changing trend of these events across the country, especially city level planning has to keep in mind these trends. Thank you.
Thank you, Kiran. Thank you, Richard. Fascinating, worrying, scary, in fact. So we are running short of time, but we have a few more minutes left. And what I would like to do is to take on one or two questions that have been raised, particularly the question, Richard, that has been raised on the Himalayas. I think you, Kiran, have also discussed it, but we can talk about it a little more. Why are Himalayan states, this is Rohit's question, particularly vulnerable? And it's also related to a number of other questions that I saw that were there on the chat box. So let's start with the Himalayas, and then there are one or two other issues that I thought we can clarify to our viewers, and then of course we can wrap this up. Richard, Kiran, you want to add to this Himalayan question, the big question of the Himalayas and the Northeast, in fact. Richard?
Okay. So answering your questions, going by all the climate forecast and studies, Himalayan regions are definitely very special ways vulnerable to climate change impact. That also including extreme weather events, snow melting, and other things. So that's one point. But if you look at it, the other impact also is that rising temperature. Definitely, the Himalayan areas are warming faster than the rest of the country, the plain area. That's already established, and it's these things. The third point, if you look at it, the Himalayan states, the data here clearly shows that the loss and damage is too high. Human casualty and also to crops, to infrastructures. And that brings to that, a question about they are vulnerable. But the planning and how you make it more disastrous is our contribution to it. It comes to that planning and adaptations and how to face this kind of vulnerabilities. That's not there. It's adding to the loss and damage and the devastation more.
Yeah, let me add to that, Richard. I mean, what we know very clearly is that the Himalayan region is ecologically sensitive. Even all the climate data has always pointed to the particular vulnerability of the Himalayas as being one which will see the worst impacts of climate change. We are beginning to see that in our world, being translated in terms of extreme rain events, cloudbursts, heat, cold waves, and all that having devastating impacts on people. But as we keep saying, and we have written about it, we keep talking about it, is that this is a double whammy. Because if we are already doing planning in a way in the Himalayas that is actually making it even more vulnerable. So when the next extreme weather event hits, it only increases it exacerbates, in fact, the loss and the damage in the Himalayas. I mean, Himalayas are the world's youngest mountain range. They are not even made out of rock. They are largely out of moraine. And yet, and so when there is a rain burst and a cloud burst, you will see this kind of devastation. So I think once again, this data is pointing to just the desperate need for us to understand that climate change is here, that we need to get real about the scale of the mitigation, which Bellum is talking about, which the whole world has to come together on. But it is also about what we need to do, keeping in mind that there will be more and more such disasters. How do we plan for it? And how do we secure these regions in the coming years? There is one other question which I wasn't sure if we really have the data to answer, But the question on Tamil Nadu, is there any data that we have? Why was the cloudburst in Tamil Nadu? Is there any reason for the why? Because what I know is that this intensity and frequency is increasing. But do we have good data on the whys also, Richard, in this
Okay,
case?
to answer this question specifically, and we just did a cover story and analyzed this also. This cloudburst in Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, in fact, Chennai had nearly 5 cloudburst or cloudburst-like events in a span of 2 hours. So the climate scientists say that they cannot give you an outright answer to this, but it has happened. It needs studies. But what they confirm that this kind of localized extreme events in unexpected geography is definitely showing that something is brewing, and that leads to your warming. That's the only thing we know this.
Yeah.
And what the scientists say. So the regions will come out. I think they can analyze it. Similarly, for this other cloudburst or cloudburst-like events, though even those which have happened in the usual hilly areas, in the things also, their intensity, the number, and everything's are being also studied. But in general, it does indicate there is a change. There is something brewing that we don't know, but its impacts we are already feeling.
Thank you, Richard. Kiran, you want to add anything? Then I can wrap up. I think Nilambari Prasad, I will also answer, but please go ahead.
Yeah, just one message that we want to give is that, so in view of this report, what the clear message is that we need to plan of development accordingly. If we have to reimagine development, that we can't just blame everything on climate change and its impacts. Yeah, that's it.
No, I think that's a good, very important point, Kiran, something we have to keep remembering. Our report points to the fact that we are going to see more and more such extreme weather events. The trend is showing, in fact, your report is showing that this year is in fact the worst. And as Richard keeps reminding us, each year a new record is broken. And the point also that is being made is that we need to understand that as these records get broken, we are only seeing that we need to act. And we need to do what needs to be done to take into account the risks. And that's where Nilambri Prasad's point is so valid, that we need to take into account the codes for building. We need to plan differently for the Himalayan regions, keeping in mind the vulnerability of the Himalayas. We need to build roads differently there. We need to build hydropower differently. When the clearances are given, do they take into account the vulnerability, not just of the Himalayas, but to the added risk of climate change? We need to look at crop insurance systems better to take into account the weather impact on farmers and to make sure money reaches the farmers and doesn't just get lost in the hands of companies and insurance companies as it is happening today. We need better weather forecasting data so that farmers can understand what to do. But I also accept the fact that with this kind of intense and extreme weather events, we really need to find a way to be able to cope better and adapt. And that's really the lesson out of this. But the final lesson out of this is, given the scale, we really must get the world to understand the urgency of mitigation. We have to reduce the amount of CO2 that we are pumping into the atmosphere, because no amount of adaptation is going to be possible with these scale of disasters that we are seeing. So once again, thank you very much for putting together this report. It's brilliant. It's widely available. Sukanya has put forward the link to you. Please download the report. Please share it. Please talk about it. Please do whatever you can to amplify this message. This is not my message, Richard's message, or Kiran's message. It is really our voice, our message together. So thank you very much for joining us today. We are really grateful that we always have your support. That's what gives us the courage to keep at it. Thank you so much. And we look forward to meeting you again very soon, even if it's virtually. Thank you.